Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this little fella right here, the Undead or Alive expansion for Bang the Dice game. This is brand new, been put out this year, and it's going to come with 5 different modules. We'll talk about those in just a second. Let's get to it. So the first module in the expansion is the Look Me in the Eyes expansion, and that has to do with these 2 dual dice that are available in the game now. Now, what these 2 dice will do is they will replace 2 of the regular dice. Now, the dice are rolled just like normal when you have an initial roll and then you have 2 rerolls available to you. Sometimes dice will lock if they roll the dynamite symbol, but generally speaking, the dice resolve after you have decided to stop rolling, whether it's after your second reroll or you just simply want to stop and say, I'm good with what I have. At that point, if you have a dual face that is available to you, you're going to give this die to one of your opponents, and then they're going to roll a die, and if they don't get another dual face, they're going to have to take a dual wound token, and we'll talk about those in just a few moments. But if they do roll this face, then they're going to give it back to you, and then you have to re-roll it. And it continues going that way until basically one of the 2 of you do not roll this face, hence having to take a dual wound token. Now, there is the possibility to roll 2 dual faces on the dice. You cannot give both of them to one person. You have to give them to different people, so keep that in mind. There is also the Moonshine face, which is this way, which acts like a root beer or a beer mug from the original game, but with this one, you're going to gain 1 life point, and then in addition to that, you're going to be able to discard one of the dual wound tokens that you possibly have taken earlier in the game. If you're not able to do that, you're going to be able to draw a rage card from the deck, and we'll talk about the rage cards in just a few moments as well. So the loser of the duel is going to have to draw one of these wound tokens, and these wound tokens will do certain things. You'll take this, you'll put it in front of you, and then on your next turn, if you roll, for example, the 2 bullseye space, it's going to negate one of those spaces. This one negates one of the 1 bullseyes. This one will negate one of the sarsaparillas or root beers or whatever you want to have it. And so these 3 negate those dice faces rather. This one, however, adds to your future die rolls. So this means that you only have the possibility of rolling 2 dynamite before your turn will end, thus losing a point, and so forth and so on. But the good thing about these basically is that once they have their effect, they do go back to the pool, and they only affect you for 1 round. But since there's going to be a lot of duels happening, it's possible that you will have more than one of these on your turn when it takes place. The second module is called the 2 bullets are enough. And so basically, whenever you take 2 wounds in 1 turn, you're going to be able to draw one of these cards. Well, what do these cards do? Well, they have different things here that will give you additional faces that you will be able to affect on your turn. Now, the dual wound tokens will be able to negate some of these if you don't roll any of those faces, so you do need to keep that in mind as well. So as you look at some of these here, it's just simply adding to the dice cache that you're going to be rolling on your turn, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So this one will give you an additional beer, dynamite, and 1 bullseye. This one gives you a Gatling gun face, as well as this one. This one gives you an arrow, which will automatically happen on your turn. This is another duel. This is another duel that you will be able to carry out during the course of your turn. But as you can see, there's a lot of different ones that are here, and so it just depends upon which ones you're going to be rolling. Now, as I said earlier, the one way that you get this is by taking 2 wounds in 1 turn. But if you roll the Moonshine face on the dual die, then you are able to discard one of your dual wound tokens. If you don't have any dual wound tokens to lose, then you'll be able to draw one of these cards at random, and thus it will take effect on your next turn. The third module in this expansion is called A New Posse in Town. And so basically there are 8 new characters that you can choose from. The different abilities they have here is Pixie Pete starts with 9 health at the beginning of the game, and it says that each time you draw a rage card, you can draw 2 and choose which one to keep. Greg Digger here starts with 7 health, and it says you may use the Moonshine face that you roll twice on your turn. Sam the healer here has 7 health, and then it says that each time you use a dual face on your dice, you may choose one player to gain 1 life point. Down here, Sean Mallory starts with 8 health, and it says that you may re-roll a dual die once on your turn, so you don't have to keep it at the end if you don't want to use it. Then here, Chuck Wingham has 8 health, and it says once per turn, you may lose 1 life point to turn one of your dice to the side of your choice, except a dynamite face if you rolled 3 or more. So as long as you don't roll 3 or more dynamite, you can use one of them to change to any face that you want. Up here, Belle Star starts with 8 health, and her special ability is after each of your dice rolls, you can change one of your dynamite faces to a Gatling gun face, but not if you roll 3 or more in one turn, in one roll, rather. So that's a pretty cool thing to battle this idea of having to deal with dynamite. Pat Brennan starts with 8 health at the beginning of the game. It says at the beginning of your turn, you may move 1 rage card from one player to another. So he can push rage cards around, and of course, those are done secretly or randomly. He doesn't know what are on the cards until the person actually uses it. And then here, Herb Hunter says that he has 8 health to begin with, and then it says if another player loses 2 or more life points during your turn, they must take a dual wound token. So it's possible that somebody will be able to get more than 1 dual token in a round, especially with this guy. Now, the 4th module of the game is called the Undead or Alive module. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to enter zombies into the game. And then there's also going to be the use of the Boneyard deck as well. So when somebody is eliminated from the game, what they're going to do is they're going to return all of their effects to the center of the board, their character card, any rage token, rage cards they may have had, any arrows, all of that's going to go back to the center, and then they're going to flip one of these cards. These cards are going to make up a deck, the Boneyard deck, and they're going to flip one of these up. As you can see, you have a number of 1s, a number of 2s, and a couple of nothing happened cards in there. So they're going to flip one over, and that's going to happen every time on their turn. And when the number of these cards, the sum of them, equal the number of players in the game or more, then the zombie outbreak occurs. At that point, all of the Boneyard cards are going to be removed from the game, and all of the eliminated players at that point will receive zombie summary cards. If the Renegade is still in the game, he hasn't been eliminated yet, he becomes the zombie master, and all the other eliminated players become part of his team. So now it's going to become a game of zombies versus survivors. So sheriff and deputies and outlaws and renegades, that's all thrown out the window at this point. It just becomes zombies versus survivors. Now, a couple of things with the zombies. They're only going to be rolling 3 dice per turn, not the normal 5 that everybody else will be rolling. But they also can't heal anything, and they cannot take dual wound tokens or rage cards. So they're just rolling 3 dice. They're just trying to cause as much damage to the survivors as possible, but they don't get any effects that will help them or hurt them any worse. So you simply have to knock them out as you would anyone else. When the eliminated players come back as zombies, they're going to take as many health points as there are survivors left in the game. So it's not an overpowering thing where they come back with full health or anything like that. And then the fifth module is more of just a rules addition. It's called the Wild West Legacy, and if you basically play more than one game in a row, you can use the following rules, and they are: if the sheriff died by the hand of another player, the player who killed them will be the new sheriff on the next game. Next, if the sheriff survived, they get to appoint the sheriff in the next game, and they can also choose themselves, but if they choose another person, then they will be able to start the game with +1 life point. So that's a cool thing as well. And then finally, if you were eliminated from the game, you can select a new character for the next game from the unused pile of characters from the previous game. And if you survived, you can play the same character again or draw a random one from the pile of unused characters, then shuffle your old character into the deck. So it's just a little bit of a rules change to kind of mix things up if you're going to play multiple games in a row. That's module 5 though, Wild West Legacy. So that's all 5 modules that come in the Undead or Alive expansion for Bang the Dice game, and I think it's an interesting addition to the system. Let's go ahead and get to my final thoughts. So that's about that for the Undead or Alive expansion for Bang the Dice game. I have to say that I really did enjoy this. I thought it added a lot of really neat things to it. I already like the game a whole lot, so you really can't go wrong. It would have to be, I guess you could say, really bad for me not to like an expansion for this game, because I really enjoy the base game so much. So with that having been said, let's get to my pros and cons. My first pro for the game is the new characters that come in the expansion. I like the fact that all of them have really neat powers that are attributed to them. Now, they're all circumstantial, so one can seem, I guess you could say, more powerful than another because it happens more, because the dice rolled a certain way during that part of the game. But since they're all circumstantial, I don't think that one is more powerful than the other. It just happens to seem like that because the dice rolled a certain way in your game more than in some other game or some other power that was determinant upon the dice being rolled a certain way. So I like how all of them are neat. They're interesting. They're not like, well, that seems kind of boring. None of them are that way. They all look like they will be used in a very specific way. In the games that we played, we did have it where somebody's power didn't fire off as much because they never rolled a specific face of one of the dice. And that's going to happen. But I do like how all of the different ones are I guess you could say balanced. One doesn't seem like it's, well, I'm always going to pick that character because that's really good. None of them seemed that way. My second pro for the game is the zombie outbreak module, where it is possible that players who have been eliminated from the game are going to come back. Now, I say it's possible, and the only reason I think that it wouldn't happen is if there is a situation where a number of people get eliminated on the same round and then the game is won very shortly thereafter. But I still think a zombie outbreak is going to happen even in that specific case. It happened in the games that we played, so I don't think there's going to be a problem with it not happening. But I think the zombie outbreak is probably by far my favorite module in the expansion. I think it adds just enough to make it interesting, and it specifically speaks to one of the smaller cons of the game in general, in that it has player elimination. So I like that. The first expansion that they came out with, Old Saloon, it also dealt with that player elimination question. I think this one deals with it in a better way. Now, if you don't like zombies, maybe you're not going to feel that way, but it definitely answers the player elimination question in a very sound manner, where it pulls people back into the game, and it's going to happen. It's not like maybe it will or maybe it won't. It will happen. So I like that a lot. Another thing that the zombie expansion does, the zombie outbreak expansion, it gives the person who comes up with the renegade a definite possibility of winning. It's really hard to win with the renegade in the base game. And so making the renegade the boss or the zombie master in this module is a really clever thing to do, because it gives them the opportunity of experiencing victory on a more, I wouldn't say consistent, but a more regular basis, because it's really hard to win with the Renegade. And when you pull it off, it's very satisfying, but it just doesn't happen very often. So I like that they answered that as well. Now, my third pro is going to deal with two of the other three modules, the Look Me in the Eye module and the 2 Bullets Are Enough module. Both of these seem to speed the game up a little bit, because the rage cards are going to be giving you extra die faces that you're going to be able to use on your turn, which means you're going to be doing more things on your turn, causing more damage on your turn, possibly dueling more, and then duels also are going to make it more difficult for you to survive, because you're going to be, first of all, taking a hit, and you're also going to be taking a wound token, which is going to hurt you on another round. So it's going to make things, I think, speed up a little bit in the game, which I don't think this was a real problem in the base game. This was always what I consider to be a filler game, 30, 45 minutes at most. So I don't think that time was ever an issue. So I still like the expansions, or the modules. I still like what they do, but I don't necessarily like the fact that they speed up the game, but I still enjoy what they're doing. So if you want a shorter version of Bang the Dice game, these would be a couple of modules in this expansion that you would want to employ, because I think it will do that. It will definitely speed up the game. And so it's still a pro in my opinion, although I don't think it needed to be sped up at all. But I still like what they do. Now, I only have 2 cons for the expansion, and they're kind of very small. The first one has to do with the 5th module, the Wild West Legacy. It is, I'm okay with the fact that they included it, but if they had left it off, I wouldn't have cared at all, because more often than not, I'm not going to play this very many times in order. I have played it once and then twice, because maybe the game went shorter than expected the first round, and so we want to play it again. Or maybe the person that got eliminated said, hey, I want to try this again. I don't think that particular instance is going to happen very often, where somebody who got eliminated says, hey, I want to play again because I didn't get to play enough. Because especially with this one, there's a module in there that's going to bring them back into the game. And with the Old Saloon expansion, there's a module that would possibly bring them back into the game there as well. So the player elimination thing isn't going to necessarily foster more plays. It's almost like you're going to have to sit down and say, okay, let's play this 5 times in a row, and we'll use this extra module to change things up in between the different games. So that's almost, you don't have to have this expansion to use that module. That's one of the things that's why it's a con for me. It's just one of those rule changes that, it's okay, but you don't need to buy this in order to do that. And it's probably something that you could just think up on your own anyway. So that's my first con. I didn't really think that the Module 5 was needed to be included in any way. Do I care? No, but it wasn't necessary. And my second con for the game is also a very small con, but at the same time, it has to do with the components in the game, specifically the dice that are employed here. Now, as you can see here, the dice are much more angular than the other dice that have come even in the Old Saloon expansion. So it's important to note here that this is a very small con. It's not a big deal in my opinion, but it would have been nicer had they had the dice matched the dice that have come out in the other iterations of this game, the core box, and then of course the Old Saloon expansion. So again, that's a little bit of a nitpick for me. I just don't like highly angular dice like these with sharp corners. I like having a little bit of rounded corners, so I like the original dice much more than I like these. And then there's the aspect of, well, these dice don't match the other dice, so they don't look like they all came in the same game. Whatever, that's not a big deal, but it is a con for me, a small one, but still a con. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give the Undead or Alive expansion for Bang the Dice game a strong 8 out of 10. 4 out of the 5 modules that are in this I really enjoyed and I liked a lot, and so I'm probably going to be using them on a regular basis. So with that, that just translates to an 8 out of 10 for me. I really do like it. I think it's a great expansion. If you're a fan of the base game, I don't think there's any reason for you not to get this game, this expansion for it, because I think it does enrich gameplay. It does kind of twist things up just a little bit to provide a little bit more freshness that will maybe help Bang the Dice game get back to your table like it used to. So I think that's a good thing. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great expansion, and you should at least go check it out. So that's it for me, and a strong 8 out of 10 for Undead or Alive, Bang the Dice game expansion. Thanks for joining me. I certainly appreciate it. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas, for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.